Hello everyone, I welcome you again in another discussion of Mains PYQ. This is a unique initiative from NEXT IAS. It is completely free, first of all. And in this program, you can upload answers to these questions. And these questions are nothing but PYQs. They have been asked by UPSC. And we will evaluate your answers completely free of cost. So please use this initiative to the fullest. So yesterday we gave this question to you. The question reads, why did human development fail to keep pace with economic development in India? So the reasons for this disparity, or let's say this lack of keeping up with economic growth of human development was asked by UPSC. This was question number 16 in UPSC CSE Mains 2023 paper. This question came in GS paper 1. And if I can map this question to a particular part of the syllabus, then it will land in the Indian and world geography, and in that too in human geography. But to be honest, this question is very general, and some will put in society section of your GS1 syllabus also. And it is not a very complex question. It is very straightforward question. And when I will give you the context to this question, you will understand why this question has been asked. So let us jump into the context part of this question. So the context is that recently we have seen that India's rank in Human Development Report or Human Development Index particularly has declined. And the score is also declined. It has been stagnant for certain years and now it has declined. Also, India's GDP growth, although has been on the positive side for the majority of the years, in COVID year it was on the negative side, but it has been growing at a particular rate. But the human development score or index has not grown commensurately. So this question is in this context, that we are growing economically. We are fifth largest economy if we talk about nominal terms, but our human development score is behind Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. So there is a question, there is a mystery why it is so. So you can see that, you can yourself observe that we are growing economically, but large section of our population is not acquiring a status of well-being. If you look at the educational standards, if you look at the health standards, if you look at the society's standards overall, so the well-being of citizens of India is not at pace with the economic growth. So that's the question. This is the context. Fine. So it was a 15 marker and you have to use 250 words to write this answer. Also, you have very limited amount of time. After discussing the context and the question and the syllabus part, let me jump into the introduction part of this question. So the structure for this answer will have an introduction, a body part and a conclusion. That's a general structure. But in introduction, it is a 15 marker. You will use a little bit more words when compared to 10 marker. So here you will explain in introduction the human development and the economic development. And when you will jump into the body part, you will make 2 or 3 dimensions and you will write 5-6 points each. So the first dimension in this answer will be the reasons. You will explain all the social, political, economic and environmental reasons. Then the second part will come the positive side. Because in this question we are talking about that human development is not there at pace with the economic development, but certain things must have happened. So we will mention certain things, that positive things. Then you will mention way forward, that what more we should do to make human development keep pace with the economic development. And then we will conclude. We will conclude on, let's say, our overall policy vision. Our policy vision is that government should back away the neoliberal idea of economic growth, and that has led to certain problems, for example inequality. So we will conclude on a balanced approach. We will say that the disparities, or let's say the people who are left behind in this economic growth, should be catered by the government. We will say on these lines. So this is the overall structure. I hope you will write answer to this question and you will upload it. Now let me discuss the introduction. So in introduction, as I have told you, you have to mention what is economic growth, and you also have to mention what is human growth. So the key words which you should always mention in these two things In economic growth, you should mention the measures, the criteria to measure economic growth. These are nothing but GNP, GDP. You do not factor in what is actually happening on the ground. So economic growth is an indicator of the growth of economy, the money that grows. But human growth is more multidimensional. It is complex. So mention these words. It is a simplistic idea. Economic growth is a simplistic idea of measuring the growth in the economy. But the human growth idea is a complex and multidimensional idea. Take a hint from the Human Development Index. What it says, it uses three factors. It says that education, it says the health or life expectancy, and it says the quality of life. These three parameters it uses. So you mention these parameters that human well-being is measured through complex phenomena, measures through complex standards as used in Human Development Index. Apart from this idea of definitional or explanatory idea of introduction, you go to the other idea and mention the current news. So what is the current news? Which I have already explained to you, that India is witnessing fairly decent economic growth. You mentioned the data, recent data, 6-7%, 8%. But you also mentioned that Human Development Index, the latest data, the past 2-3 years data, you mentioned that this has seen a stagnation and a decline in the human development score. That way you can introduce. After writing introduction, I would suggest you to make a graph. This graph is very simple. What is this graph? In body part it will come, or before body part it will come. This graph will be a very simple graph. I'll give you the idea of the graph. You make XY axis. On X axis you mention the years. On the Y axis you mention the human development score. And you make this pattern, this trend. You mention the 1992 when this index started, and then you mention the 2021, 22, whatever the latest data is, and then you mention 1 or 2 years, let's say 2020, 2019. In between you mention 2016. You don't need to make a graph that is very accurate. You just need to show a trend. So this trend is like this, that you grow it, and then you make it stagnant, and then you decline it. This is our trend. Fine. You put it in a box and you title it. You make figure human development score trend. In bracket you write India. Fine. This graph will give you 1 or 2 more marks. Fine. After making the graph, you make a subheading. What can be this subheading? This subheading will be the reasons why the human development could not keep pace with the economic development. That will be your subheading. The reasons for human development not keeping pace with the economic development. In reasons, the overall idea is that you will write economic, social, political, environmental. Political, you can include governance also, and environmental. All these subheads you will have major in these subheadings. You will make certain points. Fine. So let us discuss one by one. So the economic causes. You will write economic causes. The first point you should discuss is the inconsistent economic growth. The very first thing you mentioned, that the economic growth is not consistent. And you write that because of this, the human development also got affected. You mentioned the recent COVID downturns. During COVID, we had a negative economic growth. That's why the human development was impacted largely. So the idea is this, that economic development is taking place. The human development is not keeping pace with it. But if economic development is on the negative side, then human development will not take place. So you mentioned this idea first, that the economic growth is not consistent, because of which the human development is limited. Then you go for the second point. You talk about economic structure. So how economic structure has led to this reality? Economic structure is such in India that majority of the population is involved in the primary sector, that is the agriculture sector. And that sector is not contributing a large amount in the GDP. The largest contributor to GDP is service sector, and the manufacturing sector has not been developed since long. So this whole scenario puts large part of our population into the not participating side of the economic growth. That's why the human development is not keeping pace with the economic development, because the human development is calculated throughout the population. But the majority of the population is not participating in the economic growth. That's why it is not keeping pace with it. So you mentioned the cause of economic structure. After writing economic structure, you mentioned the jobless growth. So what is happening in the jobless growth? This is nothing but extension of economic structure. That because of absence of manufacturing sector and the sudden movement from agriculture sector to the service sector, there has been a jobless growth. A large part of economy has grown, but there are no jobs. Secondly, the jobs which are available, majority of them are informal sector job. CMIE data shows that 90% of the jobs are informal in India. So informal sector jobs, they are not permanent. They do not have social security. So the human development idea is very complex. It takes into account your social security, your health. If you lose your job, what can you fall back on? So in informal sector, it is not available. So first of all, you do not have job. Even if you have it, that job is not secure. There is no social security. So economic growth is taking place, but the human development is not taking place. So this will be your third reason. What else you can mention is economic inequality. So you mentioned that large scale economic growth will result in wealth generation, but because of economic inequality, a small percentage of population will harvest all the fruits of the economic growth, and the large part of the population will be left out of the economic growth. So one of the institute, that is Oxfam report, it has said that 1% of Indians who have large amount of wealth, that wealth is more than 40% of population, that is middle class. So you can see the extent of inequality. So economic growth will be seen, but the human development will not happen because of economic inequality. There can be more points in economic sector, but remember, you get good marks when you diversify your points. So while you discuss 4 or 5 points as much as you like in economic part, you jump to the other side. So the second thing we will discuss is, let's say, the political and governance points. Fine. So in political, you will write political causes as a heading, political causes, and then you will mention certain points. So the very first point you mentioned about policy. So it was politically accepted somehow that we will follow the liberalized model of economic growth. But the trickle down theory, the theory that we will generate a lot of wealth and that will trickle down to the last man standing, has failed. And the government did not take steps to correct their path. So first mention the policy point. You mentioned that the trickle down theory has failed and large scale social inequality or political inequality has been represented in economic inequality also, that led to lack of pace of human development in economic development. So first point you mentioned. Second point, in political and political causes, you mention about the regional disparities. What is this regional disparity? You write that the overall India is not uniformly growing, and the trend which we are talking about is not uniformly applicable to all over India. For example, Kerala, the economic growth has kept pace with the human development growth, or human development growth has kept with pace with the economic development growth. But overall India, it is not true, because certain majority part of India is not keeping pace at the same line as Kerala. For example, Bihar or Uttar Pradesh, these areas have not grown the way it should have. So regional disparity, and this is a political cause. We could not adequately allocate enough funds, or we could not make certain policies which would have led to uniform economic growth and human development growth. Fine. Third point you mention, the red tape and corruption. So this has not gone. After liberalization, this has not gone. So this this causes two things. Number one, because of corruption, whatever government is trying to do for human development will not be effective. The corrupt machinery will take out majority of the resources and use it for their purpose, and the people will not have anything. For example, education, health sector, road building, infrastructure building, they will not be effective as they should have been. And what red tape will do? Red tape will not let the market work on the human development aspect. So economic growth will take place. The market would have taken its own course, but the red tape will lead to skewed economic growth. Certain people, let's say crony capitalists, they will get a lot of money, and everybody will not get equal chance. So these two keywords you mentioned, red tape and corruption. So 4 points you mentioned in the political cause. After discussing political cause and economic cause, you jump to social cause. So in social cause, you will again make a subheading. So write social causes. It is very simple to discuss social causes. Why? Because you can see in our society that because of certain factors which are inherent to our society, they are leading to this disparity. That economy is growing, but human development is not happening. So the very first thing you should discuss is, number one is old caste structure. So what will happen? Even if the economy grows and presents an opportunity to certain part of population, they will not accept it. For example, let's say some factory work is available, but not everyone in India will accept that work. So old caste structure or caste lines, they affect the economic growth to instill human development growth. Fine. Secondly, you mention the patriarchal structure. Patriarchal structure, what it will do? Patriarchal structure will do 2-3 things. Number one, it will not let the women participate completely in the economic growth. Secondly, it will affect their well-being. Educational access to women, healthcare access to women, participation, or let's say job seeking, higher education for women. The patriarchal structure will stop them to doing so. But the male part of the population, they will grow. So the economy may function, the economy may grow, but the real development, let's say the overall development of the society or people, every citizen of India will not take place. So because of patriarchal structure, disparity in growth when it comes to economic and human development growth will be there. So the second cause will be patriarchal structure apart from caste structure. The third thing which you can discuss is education. So what is happening in education? First of all, in education, the quality of education you should talk about. Maybe quantity we may have improved at the primary and secondary level, but the quality is abysmal. Secondly, you talk about the higher education and the innovation part, the research part, and then you talk about the skills part. All these three combined, you showcase that we are not keeping pace when it comes to educating our population, skilling them to participate effectively in the economy and develop their lives. So this point you mentioned in education. Always imagine when you are writing education point, always imagine the structure, the primary education, the secondary, and then higher education, then skilling part and research and development part. And this education sector supplying people to the industry, and they are capable and skilled enough to participate in economy and grow out of poverty and develop themselves. So this is the point. And you mentioned why in India this has not taken place, because of lack of standards basically. So this will be your third point. Fourth point, you can mention the health point. How you would write the health point? The nutritional status of the under 5 children, or let's say the maternal or infant mortality rate, and then you write the nutritional status of the adolescent girls or adolescents boys. So the overall lifespan of Indians, they are most of them are stunted, most of them are wasted, and their cognitive ability, they are hampered. And then when they are adult, the wages are not commensurate to their skills because they are physically or mentally they are challenged because of nutritional status. Apart from this, you write the health system. If they fall sick, there is no proper healthcare system provided by the government, or even if the private sector is providing, that is very costly. So the poverty cycle continues. So you write in health sector, infrastructure, and you write the nutritional status. Both of them you write. And you mentioned that because of these concerns, the human resource could not participate effectively in the economic growth. That's why the human development is lacking behind the economic development. So the idea which we are again bringing, that is how you address the demand of the question. The demand of the question is reasons for the human development not keeping pace with the economic development. And again in each of these points, you will bring back this point home. You will always come out with the point that, okay, because of health, this is not happening. Because of education, this is not happening. Because of patriarchal structure, this is not happening. I hope you understand. After discussing health, education, you can also mention the population aspect. The population point is very clear point that a rapid growth of population improved the, or let's say increased the burden on the economy, and also increased the burden on the government. So both of them, both of the market and the government, they could not cater to the large scale population. For example, education, you take education. Because of large scale population, the government structure of education, the government schools, they could not keep pace. That's why private sector institution came up, and government also allowed them to establish their institutions. But these private sector institutions, they do not have quality. Still people prefer IITs or government colleges. So at one point, the government sector is providing quality education, but it is not able to cater to the population. The private sector, although it is able to cater to the population, it is not maintaining quality. So the citizens are not participating in the economy. Again, the point that the economic growth is happening, but the human development is not happening. So you mentioned the population point. Fine. After discussing social causes, you jump onto the environmental causes. So you write environmental causes as a subheading. And in this, you discuss two things. Number one, you discuss the loss of economic gains because of environmental degradation. For example, take the example of Delhi. The pollution is causing people to lose their valuable life years. The life expectancy in Delhi will decline soon. Why? Because people are suffering because of air pollution. Similarly, in other areas, for example, tribal areas, there is an industry which is established. The economic growth will take place, but the tribal life will be lost. So we have rich, self-sustaining tribal life, but because of economic growth and development, we have lost all that, and now we are suffering. So you mentioned first of all the loss of economic gains. And then secondly, you write the unequal ability of people to deal with these economic losses. So what will happen? Economic growth will take place. Certain people, because of they have special abilities, they have funds, they are economically well-to-do, socially well-to-do, politically well-to-do. What they will do, they will avoid these adverse impact of environmental losses. But certain people, they will face the challenge. So overall country, the data will show that, okay, GDP has grown, but certain people will be lost. They will lose the human development. That's why the overall human development of the country will not show up. So we have to take everybody together. So this unequal ability to tackle these environmental causes. Apart from this, you can think many other points also in these subheadings only. So, but there is a limitation of words. So keep in mind that you only need to write certain points. After discussing this part, agreeing with this premise that yes, there are reasons why the economic growth was faster than the human development growth. Now you mention certain positive points, only 2-3 points. First, you mentioned that large scale poverty reduction has taken place in India. Specifically, the extreme poverty has removed, more or less. Secondly, you mentioned the educational and health standards have improved. For example, the MMR rates, they have come down. The IMR rates, they have come down. In education, we have achieved almost 100% enrollment, and women are participating in STEM also. More women are participating in higher education. All these points you write to showcase that yes, we have done sufficiently. How you can have an idea is that all these points, education, health, let's say society also moved on. The caste system is not that rigid, and people can move out of their society. Urbanization has taken place. So mention some positive parts. So second dimension will be the positives of recent growth. So to certain length, the human development and the economic development has walked together. That way you write 1, 2, 3, 3 points. I would say 3 points. Let's say education point, let's say poverty point, and then you write the health point. These 3 points you write the way I have discussed. After discussing these positive aspects, you jump on to the way forward aspect. In way forward, you talk about, you will make a subheading way forward. This way for why we are writing this way forward, because we have said that okay, economic growth is not keeping up, that we have said. Then we have said that okay, certain part it has kept pace. Now we are telling them that there is a way to correct our course. Number 1, you write the involvement of the government. It should be improved. For example, in health sector, government should invest more. The education sector, you talk about the budgeting. Improve the budgeting. There is a target 6%, 7%. You move to that. We are on 2%, 1%. That should not be there. Secondly, you talk about in way forward the skilling part. Why? This is the main cause because of which the economic growth is not keeping pace. The human development growth is not keeping pace with the economic development. So the available jobs in the market, they can be captured by people. So skilling, if we work on skilling. Thirdly, you can write that we need to basically work on gender equality. So recent reservation for women in the political aspect in the parliament, then overall reservation in jobs and education, that has to be secured, because if women participate in the economy, there is a large scale human development can take place, because they are at low base. Basically, it is a sad scenario for us that they are at low base. We can improve very quickly. So that you mention. So 2, 3 way forward you can mention. After writing way forward, you can basically jump to the conclusion. And in conclusion, the basic idea should be you mention the disparities, that these disparities need to be tackled. The economic inequality, the gender inequality, and let's say environmental inequality, all these disparities, unskilled people, this has to be tackled, and you bring in the balanced approach. You write that okay, we should focus on economic growth, but the government should involve more and bring in a balanced growth structure so that human development can keep pace with the economic development. Because also remember, in conclusion, you showcase that India will be one of the largest growing economy and maybe the second largest economy in near future. So we need to keep a vigil on the human development also, because if not, then it will not look good. That you can mention. Or you can mention by 1947, our target is to become a developed nation. And a developed nation will have human development, economic development working simultaneously. And for that, we need to tackle the disparities. We need to focus on sustainable development goals. That way, your keywords will come and you will get good marks. So graph is there. I have discussed all the dimensions, all the causes. Please stick to the demand of the question. Try to break it into different body parts or introduction, conclusion, and you write these answers. Get them evaluated. We are here to evaluate your answers. Watch these discussions regularly and share with your friends also. Thank you.